Hey, welcome back everyone, it's Snoo. This is my Reverse Chill Elemental Hit Avatar of Fire Edition, a brand new spiffy version of my League starter, now having evolved beyond that way that the build was set up. This is a cool, different variation that I had teased on stream a full month ago as I was setting up and exploring different Elemental Hit versions. I can't wait to show this one to you. I think a lot of you are going to be really intrigued by the setup and exactly how all this works. Some really cool tech options going on. A very, very old archetype, I'm told, from before a time when I even played the game. But I'm pretty sure the way I have things set up is maybe a little different than anything set up before. I don't know, you tell me. Not sure. I basically created this organically, but you know, it's hard to create something new when there's obviously been so many great players, build makers who have made builds in the past. So I know this is definitely a callback, or at least a throwback to a bygone era Elemental Hit, and it's going to be especially interesting today because we have the brand new Elemental Hit Transfigured gem and I'm not using it. So I basically created this build without even knowing that a new gem was coming into existence or how strong it would be. It happened to come into existence. It happened to be extremely strong, so strong that it in many respects competes with Lightning Arrow as well as the original Elemental Hit, but that gem will not work with this build in no way, shape, or form. And I'm going to explain to you why that is. I'm going to of course share with you the cool things about the build, the way the tech all works. We'll show that up front, then I'll give you a map showcase, and we'll get into the gear, the gems, the jewels, exact way I usually do things. We'll cap it off with the path of building, and that'll be the end of the video. So this is Elemental Hit. It is technically leveled one level higher than Elemental Hit of the Spectrum. You can see of the Spectrum is lower damage numbers. That's because the Transfigured gem happens to allow you to do all three different damage archetypes at the same time. Otherwise, it's basically the same. But it's definitely more damage, and it allows you to get the different elemental ailments on easily. So with my version here with Elemental Hit, it only selects one of them. So I only get to pick and choose one major flat roll damage, which, don't get me wrong, that's a really big number right there, especially the lightning number, over 1600 almost. However, with Avatar of the Fire, I only get fire. And so if it rolls cold or lightning, that's not going to work. Well, fortunately, we got some tools to make it only roll fire, and we got some tools to make it convert some of the damage from these numbers. In fact, it's actually way higher than this. Let me show you the numbers. See the numbers now? Let's just slot it into here. Now it's level 28. Look at those numbers. Woo! That gets higher. I am converting 100% of that fire damage, 100% of that cold damage, and 50% of that lightning roll. I don't even know the math on that, but that's a huge roll. It's all taken into account. And the way I'm doing that is through Skin of the Lord's Avatar of Fire. Now, this is a chest that is unfortunately not going to be replicable for the vast majority of you. A lot of times I make builds and it's kind of out of reach for the average player because of the budget. This is a rare case where it's not so much the budget, it really is just good luck getting your hands on this. There were a few on there before I got it. Obviously, I kept this under wraps because I didn't want the market to just completely deplete out of nowhere. This is not even the colors I really want. My preferred colors would be 4 red, 1 blue, 1 green, and it would, instead of having cold to fire, it would have crit damage. It would be a lot more damage. You can verify that in the path of building. Just a little side point there. But at any rate, very difficult to get your hands on a Skin of the Lord. It is just basically a Chayula specific drop, and you have to, give it the blessing, make it upgrade. It's going to pick one of 50-ish different keystones, and Avatar of Fire happens to be one. And it has to, of course, have fairly good colors. It's going to have to have at least be at least red heavy with at least 1 green gem. Obviously, it needs to be able to fit Elemental Hit in there. So it's very, very restrictive right off the bat, but this chest is at the core of how the build works. Now, the bad thing about Avatar of Fire and Elemental Hit, I'm not exactly sure how people dealt with this before, but the problem is Elemental Hit scales tremendously off of ailments. Now you'll see if I'm using only fire damage, I'm only igniting. I'm not even scorching in this build. Well, I can get a cool little groovy way to get an extra one here, but this isn't exactly super reliable in the sapped ground. But how am I getting around this major issue of losing out on so much extra damage? The very bottom line, there's this 15% more damage per elemental ailment on the enemy. Well, one of the fairly old amulets to get around this is all your elemental damage can shock. So this transforms all of my fire, not transformed, but actually just gives it extra impact to be able to shock. And then, of course, Yoke of Suffering is tremendously good in conjunction with elemental ailments, or just any ailment for that matter. Now, I'm only doing elemental damage, so there's no way to get bleeds and poisons on here as Avatar Fire, unfortunately. But I will be able to take 10% or deal 10%. No, let me restate that. The enemies will take 10% increased damage. It's better than what I was about to say. 10% damage for each type of ailment you have inflicted on them. This number used to be 5%, so Yoke of Suffering has been buffed this league. Very nice. One of the more new items, I think this one only came out a few leagues ago, that is tremendously build enabling for the Avatar Fire variant is all of your damage chills. That's another elemental ailment. And it allows me to take advantage of things like Herald of Ice in a really bizarre sense. Being able to use Herald of Ice on an Avatar Fire build, really wild, because all enemies get chilled, and then all enemies that die chilled are shattered as though frozen, which is making them explode in Herald of Ice. I only get 50% of the damage from the cold Herald of Ice, to be fair, but tremendously impactful, and enables my build to have an explode where normally it wouldn't even exist. So very cool setup there. Of course, this is going to synergize extremely well with reverse chill, so that's how all this came together, basically making a reverse chill variation where I'm already using Call of the Void, so I get to take advantage of that. So Yoke of Suffering, Call of the Void, Winterweave for the reverse chill, Avatar of Fire, and then even getting Herald of Ice. Just really, really awesome package you're going to get to see in the showcase. I've already ran 100 maps with this build, but I'm going to be talking about it a little more in depth there. So yeah, let's get to the map showcase, because that's basically all there is to that. We'll throw in a nice 8-mod Corrupted Jungle Valley map. I'm going to run the exact atlas I was running in the 100 maps session recently that featured a whole bunch of borrowed power. So for this particular map, I will not be borrowing any power. I will not select the Nico's Sulfite or the Heist Smuggler's Cache. I'll be showing you plain and simple how strong the build is outright, using the exact same scarabs as I was before. And it looks like we've got a pretty average lantern there. Here's all the flasks down here. Sulfur Flask, kind of a more recent addition since I finally got Corrupted Blood immunity. Alright, so I do have a weapon swap for some cool shield charging around. You can see the Heralds of Ice going off there. You can see I'm in Delirium, so, you know, stuff is going to survive a little longer. But you can see Elemental Hit is strictly fire. Got a couple of jewels that make it select only fire. You can see a tornado is going out, which is a little bit peculiar. The tornado. That is a new addition from the formal league start as well. And these enemies are looking pretty tanky here. But Herald of Ice doing a lot of damage. Let's pull this up here to make sure what we see. Enemies cannot have their movement speed move down below base value. Definitely a little bit rough, but not too bad. You can see I'm getting plenty of rage. Still got the cast on crit rage setup with this. Having all that together makes it really nice. Absolutely could run Sniper's Mark here. Definitely do die sometimes. The reverse chill can kill me, obviously. It's got the 30% there. Okay, we got a really tanky rare there in the Deep Delirium. I think we'll just let him go. So that's basically, I mean, I'm fairly well cleared. It's nice to have the borrowed power. I definitely felt a little weaker without getting Huck on the map and all of that. So, you know, when I pick this up and I start picking these up and I get Anger Ore and I have a Watcher's Eye that benefits me when I get Anger Ore. Ooh, that looks spicy there. Suddenly, things start to look even better. So, yeah, a little bit of borrowed power. This really starts to shine. So I'm not wearing Headhunter or Mage Blood or anything, and the budget is still, well, it's hard to say because, of course, the chest is basically impossible to get, but definitely under 100 Divine, well under 100 Divine budget. Kind of the Headhunter in there. All right, so that is the map showcase. Hopefully you can kind of understand how all that worked. The tornado is all part in there. So we're going to go over the gems now. And the main link is in Skin of the Lords. The reason for that is because Elemental Hit does in fact scale off gem levels. I got it level 28. It's not the greatest way to scale the gem, but it is a really impactful way, and it's nice if you can get it in there conveniently. Well, Skin of the Lords handles that very well because it gives +2 level socketing gems, +2, not +1, which really puts Empower support on the map, and Empower support is right here. So it's level 6 in this case, and that is why the gem level is so crazy high. Then next we have Inspiration support because, you know, we lost the mana flask, craft, suffix portion where it reduced the cost of mana for attacks. And so, you know, to get it's really important that we drive down the mana cost. I am a crit-based build, so Inspiration does make sense. Very much so there. Awaken Fire Pen would be one of the absolute strongest here. This is a gem I can't take advantage of when I'm using Trinity, so I suppose in terms of power scaling, this gem replaced Trinity. Pretty even trade there. Inflicting fire exposure is really nice to be able to do. And then we got Awaken Elemental Damage with attack support, no surprise there. I'm strictly doing fire damage, so I will not take any Reflect whatsoever on the main skill anyway. I still can't run Elemental Reflect though because of Mana Forge links, but I can run Physical Reflect with this variant, which is nice. And then the last one, I would prefer it to be increased crit damage or maybe Mirage Archer, but in this case we got to do Cold to Fire, which is actually less damage than the aforementioned two, but it's still pretty strong. Obviously, being able to convert the full amount over, and it comes with an added bonus of being able to use a bricked bow from this Necropolis League setup. In which case somebody was trying to obviously craft a triple element bow. I got to buy this for 10 divines. I bought it when they were still more expensive. This is probably almost complete trash at this point with how many bows are crafted out there. Yeah, let's just go straight into the gear. I know I kind of talked about the gems, but you know, the gem links kind of really important and special there. So kind of got that out of the way. Skin of the Lords out of the way. The gem links out of the way there. Strictly speaking, gear for the spine bow. I would prefer to have attacks with this weapon penetrate elemental resistances. That one does more damage than cold would. And then, of course, that would kind of semi-brick cold to fire support. But at any rate, that does do more. And that's a veiled mod, so you're not going to be able to just craft it straight on. So it's kind of hard to deal with the Necropolis crafts with just flat fire, for example. The 94% increased elemental damage to attacks is really nice. And, of course, that equals a brick for most people. So peculiarly great synergies with the League crafting system, getting the cheapest bow you could possibly imagine. Also with Elemental Hit and Lightning Arrow, we don't care that much about additional arrows anyway. We're not playing tornado shots, so we can deal without having additional arrows on the bow. It is good and probably preferable over crit multi, but you know, just trying to make the most out of the budget. Definitely a bow like this, terrific option there. Now the quiver, I'm still using my old one that I started with. This should have flat fire instead of flat lightning, and then it would be just perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I still need to do the resistances on there instead of... You can see my resistance is cutting a little close here, so and it's good to have a decent amount of chaos res with this build because of Forbidden Rite, Reverse Chill. So I would like to have attack speed here, but I just can't do it. Just can't do it right now. So that is the quiver, pretty standard quiver. Has crit chance instead of an extra arrow, which is totally fine. Still not 100% crit capped. Anyway, I'm using Wormstein. This was a more recent addition in wanting to use a pseudo 5 link, damage link, which we'll show in just a moment. This happens to be extremely easy to get a corruption that you want. It gives me mana cost reduction, which is a really big deal. And it gives me rampage as well. It also gives me life. And it, still gives me evasion and even armor. So pretty cool. The boots here, not the best rolled boots, but the Eldritch currencies were very expensive this league. I don't really care about that 15% chaos res roll. That would be nice to be something better, but this is what I wanted. I really wanted one with Onslaught here. Otherwise, I would have had to have used Frenzy of Onslaught. I would prefer to just get Onslaught more easily right here on the boots. So this works out. Pretty good boots overall. Chance to avoid elemental ailments is there because I need that roll there to get 100% avoidance to shock with the flask up. That's why. And so, especially if I'm doing Eater Altars, you reflect ailments, I'm sitting here at 50% shock all the time if I don't have this. So, kind of need to have that in there somewhere. And then we got the helmet, which is pretty standard. And this is just, this is carryover gear from my league start. I'm not really going to explain anything here. Just getting some, resistances, life, and using the most two common implicits. They're very powerful implicits, Eldritch implicits going on there. We already talked a bit about Yoke of Suffering, so I'm not going to explain much there. It's really nice to be able to get the resistances and some attributes. Call of the Void and Winterweave are core to the build. They do not provide a huge amount of benefits overall for 2 ring slots, although I will say Call of the Void is pretty dang profound, and obviously super build enabling here in 2 ways. One is reverse chill, and the other is getting Herald of Ice activated on an Avatar of Fire build and giving me 15% more damage by virtue of elemental hits quality roll. The belt is okay. It could be better. I would rather have Energy Shield instead of Flask Effect there with that roll. The Strength roll is kind of weak sauce, but it's all right. It's kind of expensive. A little hard to craft the belt. I think the belt's the hardest thing to craft of all. The flasks, these flasks are really nothing special. It's just kind of covering my bases here in the suffixes. I needed a Shock Avoidance because I'm not pure elemental ailment immune. Cannot be with reverse chill. Crit damage. Or rather, crit chance here on a Diamond Flask, that's nice. Evasion on the Jade Flask could be flip-flopped, whatever. Dying Sun is very expensive this league, but pretty good, because it's nice to have increased AoE on Elemental Hit. Elemental hits clear can suffer a little bit. That's one of the reasons why Herald of Ice is so desirable to have that active there. But anyway, that is it for the gear. Now, to finish off the gems, I kind of already got into the main gem links here, and hopefully you kind of understood where these are coming from. We also have a Mana Forge damage support set up here with Blast Rain, which is working out nice because it's giving me a reliable source of combustion, which is allowing enemies to take an extra more fire damage, and it's, decent damage link. It's combined here with Concentrated Effects, so it's more likely to do damage. Single target, Life Tap is in there, Mana Forge arrow support. So, it's not the greatest single target, but it certainly assists a bit and actually boosts up my main damage links. It's pretty cool. The other Mana Forge link is the Quintessential Frenzy with Forbidden Rite and Warlord's Mark connected to Cast on Crit and Life Tap support. So this is what I was running before anyway, for the most part. Then we have an interesting one here. We got Tornado connected to Cast when damage taken as well as Immortal Call. So Immortal Call was going off constantly there, and I'm constantly getting endurance charges through Warlord's Mark anyway. That's going off everywhere all at once. So it's really helps elevate my defenses. I'd say it'd be somewhere on par with the Trickster Ascendancy, where you just, periodically take way less damage. Like half the time you're taking a lot less damage, and half the time you're taking the full damage. Kind of feels like that a little bit. But it's cool to have that in there. You wouldn't necessarily have to have Immortal Call. The Tornado is really strong, though. And, if I don't run Tornado here, it's not a bad idea to run it instead of Forbidden Rite if I wasn't running the Reverse Chill version. But it's cool that I can set it up in here because Forbidden Rite makes me take damage. And then I can just put it in the Cast and Damage link. So it's really convenient to just do the Immortal Call and Tornado in there. Berserk is also slotted in here. I do not have a movement skill right now, so I'm just kind of using the setup that I've been using in the past. I'm not going to really talk about this. I made separate videos on this. Wave of Conviction is kind of cool to put in here, I guess. I'm going to do even more fire damage. But I guess I don't really need Wave of Conviction now that I have Exposure, come to think of it. Well, it's a stronger exposure, but at any rate, that's going to be it for the gem links. Oh, almost forgot. We got Precision, Herald of Ice, Haste, and Grace. So Val Haste, of course, in there. So then we can move on to the jewels. I did have a Watcher's Eye in here, but recently set up an 8 passives. Pretty cool, strong one here with Sadist, Storm Rider, and Widespread Destruction. A little bit of AoE. Storm Rider gives me the power charge, and Sadist is just giving me a whole bunch of extra damage because I am indeed igniting, shocking, and chilling. Wow, so pretty cool that Avatar of Fire can use Sadist to its fullest impact. And here they are here, these notables. Quite good. Quite useful cluster there. Watcher's Eye, this is a very cheap version for a lot of damage. Fire Pen, which is only coming from Huck. If I have Huck on the map. And crit damage with precision up. And then the Searching Eye Jewel is, a very nice jewel, obviously, with fire damage, crit multi. It gets phasing in there. I'm only 1 point away from phasing, and I wasn't sure of the tattoo situation. I could just be putting blind in there instead. But anyway, I got blind here. So that's where I put the tattoo, but that's the situation there. Basically just a flexible jewel slot. What's not flexible is these 2 jewels. And this could be used as function for the corrupted blood immunity, obviously. But you can get it, I mean, fairly easily on a combat focus. Apparently really high item level anyway. We need both of these combat focuses to turn off both cold and lightning. And then we're going all the way up here for the, the lethal shade anyway. So this works out really nice. No room for an elegant hubris or lethal pride, however. So on to the passives. Pretty straightforward here. Don't really have enough room to go to far sight stuff. Not going all the way up to Written in Blood anymore, where I was. Got to fit in that cluster somehow. Just kind of shoving the very top and the very bottom over into the cluster. But everything else is basically the same. Adding a few points here, I believe. Kind of removed a few points here. Pretty typical setup. Had to get a little extra strength because my belt was not rolled really high. If I had like a tier 1 strength roll, for example, I would not need prowess. Still only level 95, so I guess with a whole bunch of extra points, I would maybe go ahead and take Written in Blood. After all, would probably be what I would do with those extra points. And that's going to be it for the passive, because it's just, very much carrying over from my actual League starter. And that leads us to the final part, which is, you guessed it, path building. Alright, so I have it configured here to appease the general community. I've started configuring these for bossing setups, so the numbers may look lower than they usually do for me, but this obviously does not paint anywhere near the full picture of damage that it's doing in maps, but this is what it would be like more or less while bossing. It would seem people care about that number more. Not myself personally, but anyway. We have some calculations to go into. Effective DPS, you can see it's pure fire. Pure fire going on there. No magic find still. Now, my next version of my build is going to go back to the new Transfigured gem. We're going to do Secrets of Suffering and some magic find. That will be the stepping point moving forward. That's going to be a pretty hefty transition, however, to that. But anyway, you can see, pretty decent EHP. That is with Immortal Call Up, though. And, recovery is alright. We still got some instant leech going on. No regen. Can be a little rough. We have 6 projectiles. We got some decent AoE for the clear. Pretty good crit chance. Almost full. Crit damage would be nice to be a little higher. On a higher budget, crit damage number would go up for sure. 100% chance to hit. And, everything kind of looks there in order. Alright, so that is going to be it. That's going to conclude the build. I hope you enjoyed this cool little experimental elemental hit build that, well, it's not too experimental because I already experimented with it a month ago. Knew that it would work well. This feels, what I have here feels like it's doing about 2 or 3 times more damage than my initial League starter. One more thing I forgot to mention, switching out of Far Shot into Ricochet. The reason for this is you get the benefits off of Tornado to chain off Tornado. So you get some added damage, and of course the Tornado will do some damage as well. So it's better to just do a chain variation there instead of having a return projectiles version. So obviously you could continue to do return projectiles and forget about the Tornado completely, but I felt that this was a good opportunity to go into Tornado from there because I really wanted to drop the single target ballista setup. So my single target needs a little bit of help, and the Tornado dealt with that. Plus Tornado is just cool anyway, so we'll go with it for that reason. I was using the new Transfigured Tornado gem before I realized that it doesn't function the same way as regular Tornado with the added single target, so it's unfortunate. Really cool thematically, but because they're both prismatic gems, Elemental Hit and the Transfigured Tornado. But in this case, we have to use the regular one. That's it. Alright guys, that is it for the video. Thank you for watching. Hope you look forward to this build evolving even further. I apologize, major disclaimer. You're not going to be able to get, you're not going to be able to replicate this build, probably. It's going to be very hard, prohibitively expensive. You're going to have to live search the hell out of a chest like this. Again, it doesn't have to be these exact colors. You can make it work and function pretty well with it. I think bare minimum like 2 red, 1 green would suffice on there. But they are hard to get a hold of, so Don't blame me. I'm just a messenger. You know, I'm just making a build I like to play. I love it whenever you guys can replicate it, and you do. But this one, you know, it is what it is. Really cool build, and it's fun. You know, it's nice to be able to have a little prestige and having exclusive items that not everybody can get a hold of. You know, that's the way it happens sometimes. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below if you like this build, if you're thinking about running it yourself, or, you know, if you think there's something else could be done with the build that would be much better. You can tell me that as well. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.